Welcome to the grand opening of the Spanish Fork Community Garden. I am Angie Hatch. I am here with Tiffany Miller, who is the director for the Community Garden, and Hillary Whitaker, who is the garden manager with Community Action Services and Food Bank. And we're also glad to have Spanish Fork City Councilman Kevin Euler and Jesse Cardin with us, as well as Bart Morrill, the Spanish Fork Parks Division Manager. We have Rowan, Miss Utah's Beehive Volunteer Princess, Grace A. Hanger, Miss Spanish Fork, Riley Voorhees and Miriam Brophy from the Fiesta Days Royalty. So, yeah, thank you. Obtaining and preparing and producing and enjoying food is a fundamental and universal part of the human experience, and one that brings us together in family and community. I am a third-generation resident of Spanish Fork, and I remember how I experienced the concept of community foodways growing up. I remember going to Kenny Pay's cornfield with my grandpa and getting lost in that field before corn mazes were a thing. My grandpa would bring home an entire truckload of corn and everyone would come help. My cousins, my brothers, my sisters, and I would clean and shuck corn outside, and then we would send it inside where the adults were preparing it for canning and freezing. The annual fruit tree harvest was a similar process where we would all come together and take home jars of pears and peaches and cherries to fill our pantries. And I think that, like so many other things in life, gardening and all these things that come with it are just better when we do it together. This community garden will make gardening and self-reliance more accessible for community members who wouldn't otherwise have access to a space for gardening, or who might feel more comfortable learning in a supportive environment. Some of the garden beds will be dedicated to growing fresh produce for Tabitha's Way, our local food pantry. And the garden will provide many opportunities to grow, not just food, but also relationships and a sense of community. Tiffany Miller, the director of our new community garden, is a graduate of USU Master Gardener program, and she's been teaching gardening classes through the library for the last 3 years. And this came about because several people in her classes had expressed an interest in having a community garden. And so she searched for gardens in our area and found that Community Action Services ran several in Provo. So she reached out to Hillary Whitaker, and together they approached Spanish Fork City about starting a new community garden. And the city was very generous in providing the land and the water for this project. Then more dedicated community members joined with Tiffany and Hillary to form a planning committee, and we reached out to local businesses who were also very enthusiastic about supporting this project. It's been really inspiring to see how so many individuals and organizations in our community have come together to make this garden a reality. Bill Bushman, Bart Morrill, and Dale Robinson with Spanish Fork City have been a pleasure to work with on this project. Thank you. A shed has been purchased with donations provided by Lions Pride Insurance, Hillcrest Bank, and the Dugout, and it will be built soon. We want to thank all the community members and organizations who contributed by sponsoring garden beds and showing up to build them and fill them. And a huge thank you to the committee members for your hard work to make the garden a reality. As you walk through the garden today, you will notice that some of the garden beds have sponsor plaques on them, but some do not. And this means that we still need your help. Community Action Services helped to purchase the materials for all the garden beds so that we could meet our timeline and take advantage of the entire growing season. But only some of the beds have been sponsored. That means that the cost has been covered by donations. So please consider sponsoring a garden bed or making a donation of any size. I want to share the mission statement for the community garden. It's to build an inviting community to bring people together, increase food security, offer learning opportunities, and improve access to gardening by creating a beautiful, inclusive, and supportive space that is an asset to our town. Thanks to a collaborative effort by members of our community, we are well on our way to achieving that vision.
Right, let's count to three. Ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
I have been teaching classes at the Spanish Fork Library about gardening, and last year I had some students that were interested in a community garden because they didn't have anywhere they could grow at home. And I looked around to see if we had one and found that there were no local community gardens, and decided that we needed to get one here in Spanish Fork. So I was able to go to the city, and they gave us permission to use this land here by this police station. And I then approached Hillary at Community Action Services and Food Bank in Provo because they have 4 gardens of their own. And she jumped right on to help create this garden. So we're hoping that this garden will be a gathering place, not just to grow food, but to grow community and to grow learning. We really want people to learn how to grow their own food and also how to grow friendships. We have 40 beds that are available for families or individuals to rent for this season to grow whatever they want for that year. And then we also have 12 beds in the front that we are donating to local groups like the Spanish Fork Library and Tabitha's Way to grow food for classes and for people that need it. The city has been gracious enough to provide all of the water that we will need for this garden, and we are in the process of creating drip lines for every bed that will be able to water the beds. So all the families and individuals will need to do when they come to the garden is to plant their beds and weed them and make sure that they are getting enough water. And we have seeds available at the public library. We have a new free seed library available to everybody. And we've also had a few donations of plants from locals and businesses. We encourage those that are renting the beds to make them their own. So you can bring decorations or anything as long as they're not outside of the beds, so that you can make this a community as well and make it your own. The beds are available to plant in beginning spring when the weather permits, and it will grow until the end of the growing season in November is when we have the beds cleared for the winter. We do have very large beds that are 16 feet by 4 feet wide. So if that's too much for one individual, we do have people that have gotten their neighbor or friend that they rent a bed together so that it's not too much for just one person. If you're interested in volunteering or renting a bed, you can email us at sfutcommunitygarden@gmail.com, and we'll be able to get back to you that way.